All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll call to order at 7:34. We just rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. First thing, we just want to officially welcome Kevin Oliver as the Assistant Director of Capital and Construction Projects. See him to my left. It's kind of a back and forth, and Mr. McCaffrey was correct. The school committee would appoint the position, not the building committee. So anyway, welcome, Kevin.
Thank you.
If you know what you got yourself into, that's okay. Recommended actions. First is approval of minutes from the March 5th meeting. Jenny sent them. I'm just looking for a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Holmes, seconded by Mr. Lucy. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Second is approval of minutes from the March 19th meeting. Need for motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Holmes, seconded by Mr. Lucy. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, there's no old business. We're on to project administration. Agenda item D2, bid review and awards, building committee rebid approval, award pending Mesa School Committee approval. Bid 25-0018, construction testing agent for Pilgrim and Tollgate.
Mr. Bates.
Mr. Bates.
So we got 9 proposals for this rebid. They're all capable testing agent firms. We did a review. The vendors that scored the highest on our review matrix had a combination of a lot of good K-12 public school project experience, and they had low unit rates. So the top 2, as you probably saw in the review matrix, were FINA and Briggs with total point value of 10.2, I believe. Again, these are all good firms. I've worked with Briggs myself. I think my colleague, Mr. Spiegel, has as well. FINA, I got a couple of good endorsements from some reference calls from them. It's a tie, but if you want to go with just the lowest unit rates, that would be FINA Engineering. So if the committee has any experience or interest or feedback based on the proposals, we can be on there. Steve,
Both local, Jim?
out of Massachusetts. Both out of Mass.
The one Rhode Island local firm was exorbitantly.
I think Briggs has an office in Rhode Island, but their headquarters in Mass.
Any questions for?
I haven't worked with Thien. I've worked with Briggs before.
I've worked with Briggs too. I haven't worked with
Thien, yeah.
Yeah, a couple of projects FINA has going on in Rhode Island. Talked to a couple of OPMs that are working with them now. They said they're fine. Yeah, so I suppose again, if you want to go with the lowest unit rates, it would be FINA.
Okay. Anybody else have any non-committee members? Anybody work with any of these firms before?
Yeah, I worked with Briggs.
I've worked with
I
Briggs.
worked with Briggs.
Okay.
And for what it's worth, I think Briggs had the 3rd lowest or the 2nd to lowest unit rates. So take that for what it's worth.
John, when you say lowest unit rates, is there a specific base bid task that they have to do, and then they give you units for?
Yeah,
other
we gave
things?
them we gave them a matrix to populate for a half day versus full day and for all the
different types of specialized testing that we're expecting to do, special inspections.
So they provided unit rates for each category.
They would use, and would they subcontract any of this testing work for some of the specialized testing?
I think Briggs might have an in-house testing lab, but yeah, both firms would probably do some subcontracting.
Which is pretty typical.
Yeah.
Briggs does have its own concrete testing lab,
Right.
if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So your recommendation was what? The OPM's recommendation was.
John and I talked about this, and
Yeah,
we're
well, Steve.
putting it squarely on the committee.
So the lowest was tied between FINA and who else?
Briggs.
FINA and Briggs. Okay,
We get, there was a lot of, a lot of in-house experience with Briggs, not a lot with FINA, so what do you guys think? The cost differential is not great.
No.
And just to kind of throw this out there from a procurement standpoint, we have two firms that are tied and one has lower rates. So we would need to make an argument as to accept the higher priced firm. Just throwing that out there in case of bid protests or things like that, we would need to have a good reason. It sounds like there is, if you want to choose it, that we have internal experience working with. Just want to make the group aware of that.
Yeah, I would go with, I would prefer Athena, to be honest.
Okay.
And that way they're ultimately avoid any.
yeah, and again, I mean, I'll defer, you guys have more expertise in this than I would ever have, so, I see both sides, but I do think, if they're both reputable and you have to do your due diligence in your investigations of them, and they came back recommended pretty well by the people that have used them.
They did. Yeah.
So, if that was different, then I think the argument's different.
Right.
Okay. So, all right, so I'll be looking for a motion to, accept FINA Engineering as our construction testing agent.
How do you spell that?
ENAGH.
It's like an Irish spell.
You sure it's not Frach or something like that?
I've been
Where's
calling him
Kevin Owens?
Fennig for a
Fennig,
while until someone corrected me, so.
I'll make the motion, David.
So it's
FENAGH.
moved by Mr. Kravitz, seconded by Mr. Court. Any further conversation? Okay, hearing none, call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next. Recommended awards. Steve, this is you. You want to do Columbus Door first?
Correct, this is for rim and mortar cylinders and, our specialized Everest cores for our key system that we get through Columbus Door. We're buying them outright, so we don't pay the contractor a markup on this. 6,012 for 36 of these, and the doors have they're keyed inside and out. So secure removal. $6,012, Columbus Door.
Any questions for Steve on that? That's necessary hardware. We need to have the stuff. All right, looking for a motion to approve Columbus Door for $6,012. Moved by Mr. Kravitz, second by Mr. Court. Any further questions? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, items, want to do one at a time, Steve, or both of them? B and C, GZA, environmental?
Do them both.
Do them both together.
All right, so item B is GZA Environmental for Pilgrim High School, in the amount of $55,540. And item C is GZA for Tollgate High School, $88,680. Now, these are estimates?
These are proposals.
Okay, all right.
So GZA is the project's geotech engineer, or was during the design phase. So these would be to extend their services into construction. So we're going to need a geotech engineer to do foundation install oversight. There's code required soil and foundation inspections, structural fill, and they'd be submitting certifications of the 128 forms as the engineer of record. So again, this is to extend their services into the construction phase from design. You'll see that the 88.6 is significantly higher, that toll gate number, because the complexity of the site and the amount of work it's going to entail. So
How is this charged, John, is it a T&M basis or is it per task? How do we calculate the estimate?
they gave a lump sum proposal not to exceed.
Okay, so these are not to exceed. Okay. Any questions for left field?
Yeah.
Mr. Lucy?
John, is this something that FEMA could do as the testing agency?
They're not going to sign off on the 128s for foundation soil.
Can't the architect sign off on it?
No, it's going to be a geotech engineer of record. Yeah. So for the majority of the soil testing, FEMA could do, but for the sub-foundation soil compaction testing, we'd want the engineer of record to do the certification. FINA wouldn't, not being the engineer of record, they would not issue the certifications.
And in my experience, even when on a Smithfield job, even when some of the soil testing was done by a third party, the compaction and leak gauge testing and things like that, you still had to, GZA was actually the engineer of record on that job too. GZA still had to be out there. So you're getting charged twice.
It's standard on every project we've been on to have our own geotech engineer.
Yeah. I think insurance got it.
The only way the only way that it was changed in a project that I'm on is if, when you hire the architects, you specifically state in the RFQ that this services are being carried by the architect through the construction phase.
And that's why we've been carrying a few $100,000 in our budget for geotech since the beginning, knowing that we would be encumbering this expense.
So it is planned, it's not a change.
Yeah, it's anticipated.
Was this bid out as well?
It's an extension, it's an ad service, so it's not, we didn't open it up for a bid. We want the same design engineer to do the construction engineering.
It would significantly, it would cost money because it would slow down the job if we were to bring on another geotech engineer that's gonna have to go through all of their, you know how it is.
I'll make a motion to approve. PNC.
Motion to approve, Mr. Kravitz, second. I'll second. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, looking for a motion to approve GZA for agenda items B and C. I'm sorry, looking for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, D is 0. I believe there's nothing there.
Yeah, so it's no charge, but Mr. Guillermo,
All right, so what was that? All right, Mr. Guglielmo, Secoshing and Associates, it's $0, which we like. Exterior door upgrade project, summer project 2025. So what was that for?
This one here goes along with, one of the PCOs that I don't see listed on this change order report. It's basically the door projects that, we put out the envelope projects, they came in over budget. So we had to take the 5 sets of drawings and convert them from, envelope projects to just door and hardware projects. We charged for the rebidding, but we didn't charge to update the documents.
Okay.
But this is also tied to a PCO 11. I don't, Steve, I don't know. how you want to
11's on
handle
the
it,
log,
but it's-
11's on the log, which was already approved. That was the $27,000 one for the additional work, for heating and, this electrical.
Yeah, they had, Allborg had sent in a revised one, and it was, I think it was like
24,743, yeah.
So, because the engineer missed some of this stuff, we talked about it at,
Right,
I
okay,
think
I
2
remember that
meetings
one.
ago.
Yeah.
The engineer missed some of this stuff and it was tabled. So I went back to the engineers and typically on a change proposal, if the work was in the bid, you would have paid something for it. So we typically figure that 25% of a change order is a premium that you're paying because it is a change order. So we went back to the engineer and we basically explained to them that, they own 25% of that change order to give back to the school department. So within that letter, that's why that letter, that's in the packet explains that change order, PCO number 11 was included in that. It comes out to like $6,800 that the engineer owed. So we were saying that because we gave back $53,000, the $6,800 was part of that. So it's not like, we're gonna cut another check. We've already given back $53,000. So the $53,000 more than covers the $6,800 that the engineer owed. So
Okay.
That's what that letter explains.
I understand that. All right, cool. There was no vote to take on that, right?
To accept it.
Oh, all right. So looking for a vote to accept Secoshing item D3D for $0.
So
Moved by Mr. Lucy, second. Oh, second by Mr. Kravitz. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're on to change order reports, Steve. First, item A, all board construction, $7,403.
Okay, that is PCO number 14.
Yes, PC number 14.
Right, so this is power that was to dampers and added alarm modules that were required. So it was additional work that was needed. Yeah, and electrical work that went along with it. Seek your approval.
Any questions for Steve on that?
Is this just for electrical work or is it for mechanical as well? No,
This
the
is-
dampers were
this
shown,
is
but they
part of
weren't
the-
powered,
Yeah, so it's for the dampers.
so the engineer's gonna kick in on,
That's part of the 50.
yeah,
Great.
okay.
All right. Any other questions for Steve? Okay, I'm looking for a motion to approve all board change order A for $7,403. Moved by Mr. Kravitz,
Second,
seconded by Mr. Lucy. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, 15 on here is voided, so we
Okay,
don't
so
need to
agenda item B is voided. We're not addressing that one. Next one is item C, which is PCO number 16 for $13,654.
This was, I believe this was already approved, and we didn't have it marked on our sheet. This is for above the asbestos containing hard ceiling. We could not see the cabling. I think I went over this, but we need to verify the vote. So none of the wiring above was to code, could not be seen, so it had to be replaced. And since we were ripping it all out, we put in new switching. So we seek your approval again for $13,654 for that work.
Yeah, I remember this.
In the event it hasn't already been approved,
What's that?
in the event.
In the event that
It
I
hasn't
didn't write,
already
and I
been.
didn't write it down, yeah.
So, all right. Any other questions for Steve? I'm looking for a motion to approve all board for $13,654.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Lucy, seconded by Mr. Kravitz. Any further questions? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
17 was also voided
PCO number
through
17
negotiation.
was voided through negotiation. Okay, so now we're on to PCO number 18 for all board, $7,842.
18, well, when we were initially trying to save some money and not replacing some light fixtures in certain areas, and once we get into it, they weren't gonna last, so it didn't make any sense. It was stage, it was the old boiler room, several, we put in LED lights. So we seek your approval. They needed to be done.
Okay, any questions for Steve on that? Hearing none, looking for a motion to approve all board, $7,842.
so moved.
Moved by Mr. Lucy, seconded by Mr. Kravitz. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor? Aye, opposed, motion carries. Okay, one question, Steve. I think Mr. McCaffrey just sent an email. So like on some of the paperwork in here, his question was, did the architects sign off on it?
Did they sign off on it? Yeah,
Yeah, so, okay.
yes, they did.
Okay, all right, so we're on to change order report F. All board, $1,714, PCO number 19.
Okay, 19 is, through discussion with Mr. DeCourt and his role as head building official, there was a question about whether the walls in the metal addition had to go all the way to the ceiling. Since, after review of the code, since each of those rooms had an egress out to the exterior at the first floor level, we did not need to do that per code, and it saved approximately $50,000. But added to that was we had to make sure that the fire door had proper smoke seal, and the wall above the door was properly smoke sealed, fire caulk, all of that. So $1,714. And that's really just for all the smoke seal that needed to be replaced, but it saved a lot of money. Thank you, Al.
Welcome. We appreciate that, sir. Can you find another 6-7 million?
In your spare time.
All right, any questions for Steve on that? Okay, hearing none, looking for a motion to approve all board for $1,714. Moved by Mr. Lucy, second. I'll second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next is Greenwood PCO number 18, Steve, $2,059.
This was in the 4 classrooms on the second floor. We brought ductwork down through the old ventilation shafts. And when it was done, it was just, it wasn't planned to be covered over, but it also needed access panels. So we decided that we would put access panels in. All board did that. It looks good. It gives us access. It wasn't part of the plan. And they did it almost at cost of $2,059. So it's a good deal. Come seek your approval.
Any questions for Steve? Okay, hearing none, look for a motion to approve all board for $2,059. So moved by Mr. Lucy, second. I'll second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So Steve, from what I can see on Howland, right, the PCO sheet you gave us, so far we've approved 187,000,
That's correct.
right? That doesn't include what we approved today. So Al, we're still in a decent,
2%.
we're still in that window. Okay.
Total change order is a 3.1 though, right, potentially? I was just doing that. Is that
Well,
what
I'm
you-
just looking, so we did 74, today we did 74 and
Looking at the
13,
left
that's
column.
21. And we did another 8,000, so that's 29.
I'm not looking at what we approved as much as what they're anticipating on the left.
Yeah, well, we just
Yeah.
removed,
Yeah.
20,000 of that
Okay.
238. So now you're down to 218. So 218 is a percentage of 7.6.
Yes.
2 high twos.
And change.
Okay. All right.
Yes, before that, we had 187,000 approved. 187,000.
Yeah, 187, yeah, okay. All right, so now we're on to, item H, EW Berman, Oakland Beach renovation PCO number 46, for $6,752.
Yeah, that is for, I brought this to the committee heads up several months ago, that as we were doing the windows, we were uncovering a ton of rotted wood and for blocking. So what we did is we kept it as time and materials, and this is when Mr. Brady was still here. So we looked and signed slips and made sure we were aware of every piece that went in. They did not overcharge us on it. Good deal. Seek your approval.
Any questions for Steve on this? They included pictures of the rotted wood, so it was pretty obvious that.
Yeah, and
Just gotta need to
the
be
original
replaced.
windows leaked like this. Plus, the other issue was, if you remember, we did all that brick above and the water was coming in. So all those front windows, all the blocking on that whole front side is rotted.
Was this replaced with just regular pressure treated wood? Or
Yes.
Is this how you typically do that? Okay.
Yeah, and that was the problem. Most of this wood was not PT original.
All right, so looking for motion to approve EW Berman for $6,752. Moved by Mr. Holmes, second,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Lucy. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next, EW Berman, PCO number 50 for $5,226.
We brought this as a heads up before for the rewiring of cabinet unit heaters, 9, 10, and 11. We knew it was coming. Seek your approval.
Any questions for Steve? Hearing none, looking for motion to approve EW Berman, $5,226. Moved by Mr. Holmes, second,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Lucy. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, item J, Sakosha and Associates, $162,000. Tollgate High School, Warwick Area Career and Technical Center.
Mr. Bates will take this.
Mr. Bates.
I'll set the table. This change order includes 3 design changes that were requested with Sakosha and Associates. So I think we should take them one by one. The first one is the constructability changes that were requested of them. This is to change the walls above the roof level from masonry to metal panel. There was significant schedule savings in doing that. I invite Divio to add any insight as to what that does from a sequencing standpoint. but we can work.
So, yeah, Dimia, why don't you tell the group how that, what seems like a small change really impacts our schedule?
So there's just, by eliminating the brick veneer on the upper portion of the roof, just made the constructability a lot more feasible. There's a lot of difficulty that comes with the brick veneer above. You have to shore underneath, which affects your ability to do the underslab work. It's a lot of cost to do all that shoring. So we worked with the Secoshing team to change that from a brick above the roof line to a metal panel. And it just made the job a lot more simplistic to build and execute in the field.
And from our perspective, it saved time, would save money, and save money, period, just through shoring, constructability, sequencing of the slab pours. There's several things that happen that save a ton of money. It's money well spent to get us where we need to be.
Okay, so that's change one.
One question, yeah, question for,
Is that aluminum panels?
Yes.
Long-term maintenance was a concern.
well, that was my,
Metal.
that's my next question. So, so replacing, a masonry lasts forever, right? But sometimes you have to repoint or whatever, but, so if there's a downside to metal panels, what's the downside?
That location, probably not as much as the ground level location. I think when we're talking about maintenance and durability issues, part of it is,
And the other thing to remember, it doesn't sit right down on top of the roof. There's probably a 1 foot space where the roof comes up and the metal flashes over it. So you don't get that splash.
And it's a composite panel. It's not just aluminum.
Oh,
It's a sandwich panel with phenolic material in the middle of it. So it makes it stronger and thicker.
How does that affect the cost of construction? Is it less expensive?
The metal panels are more expensive, but the savings of the time that they just explained outweighed the cost, the increase of the cost of the panels.
Construction.
Well, it's a material add, but
in
overall.
material after the cost drop.
Net savings.
Yeah, that's savings.
Otherwise, we wouldn't recommend.
Yeah.
Anything that was gonna add money would.
Yeah, we're not about that.
I mean, even if you take the design change and the material change versus the time change, schedule savings, sequencing, it's a no-brainer.
And the reason why there is a change was only because we were already into 90% construction documents and the details and sections were already done.
Right.
So we had to redo all of them. It affected 18 sheets in the set. So
What's
That's,
part two?
that's the first one.
Okay, so part two of this change order is changes to the CTC building specifically. So we originally had the CTC CAD lab in Pilgrim as part of their program. It was requested somewhat recently to move that back over to Tollgate and work it into the CTC building. So that change is for those efforts to do all of that, all of those drawing updates.
And the change, the request by RIDE to move classrooms to the CTC that weren't originally planned.
Right.
And there was some back and forth that was requested by RIDE, and Secoshing was well into design. And had to stop and start and redo what they were doing.
Yeah, I do want to just kind of accentuate that point that Director Goffberg made is that RIDE has had a heavy hand. They have been, their ability to basically be the owner on the Providence projects has given them a lot of confidence in now altering other designs and making a lot of requested changes. So this is a reaction to those requested changes coming down from the Department of Education.
So with some of these, John, with some of these changes, the outgrowth of the recent meetings that we had with RIDE, the last 4 or 5 weeks,
Yes.
Yes.
right, with moving the classrooms into the CTC and the sight line.
Number two is, yeah.
Number two, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would
Number two.
concur with,
Number two
Mr.
and
Speed.
four.
all right, and so that's,
It's number two.
yeah, so number three, you've got the 25,000, what's that one, John?
That's the structural.
Yeah. Structurally,
Yeah, for the CTC building. Or I'm sorry, the Marine Welding and Trade Connecting Corridor. Steve, Can you talk about this one?
Yeah, that was, when we found that the main building was so far over budget back in design development, we were asked to look at that lower level of the high school where we had, the wood shop and the, marine welding space. Because it was being cut into the hill, into the ledge, it was the most expensive area of the building being built. So we had to rethink it. We said, okay, what if we took it out of the building and we put it in its own metal building next to the CTC building? So that saved, I don't know how many millions of dollars
Millions.
on the building. I think it was like $8 million we saved of not doing that work inside the main building. And we proposed doing a metal building next to the CTC building. Now, that metal building, it turned out to save a lot of money on the project, but it was never in the scope of the engineers to do that design for that building. As you can see on the change estimate, we're only charging for the structural engineer $25,000 to do the foundations for that building. We're not charging for any architectural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, or civil engineering that had to be done for that building. So, the structural engineer has a legitimate, change request because he had already designed all the foundations and everything for the main building, and now we had to redesign all the foundations at the other area of the CTC, next to the
The net
CTC building.
savings is probably around 5 million.
Is the structural include the metal building itself?
The metal building itself is designed by the metal building provider, the company.
Expand on that.
We're working with a company that's already designed that building for us, and it's gonna be in the specs, so Dimeo can actually bid on it.
They have a Rhode Island engineer stamping it?
It's a company that Dimeo's used before, yeah.
Do they have a Rhode Island engineer that's stamping this?
I'm sure they do. We don't accept it if they don't.
Okay,
Yeah.
me neither.
Yeah.
Yeah, just saying.
No, we know. We've done many projects with metal building companies, and they always have to have a Rhode Island stamp.
No, yeah, we've been doing a lot of residential ones, and it's pulling teeth to get a.
Is that part of this accessory dwelling unit push? I just
No, this is just because they're more or less, they're inexpensive compared to wood construction, so they're going that route, but it's, we're designing the foundation, who's design, and the homeowners are like, are you kidding me? It's an extra cost, yeah, well. And then the move of the, marine, the welding program. Everybody was on board, right? We reached out to the people who run the program.
We've had multiple meetings. And
Yeah.
they're getting a lot more square footage.
Yeah. Right.
We're getting more storage. It gives the automotive program a ton more storage. It was a win-win all the way around, square footage wise and cost wise. It's a no-brainer.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Rulo? Yeah,
Well,
Mr. Brown.
Going forward, if we could see like the metal panel change, like what it would look like, the difference, be helpful to know going forward if we make changes.
On the main building,
Yeah,
we have renderings that we can, yeah. We actually studied it and we did renderings of it to make sure that it was something that we would,
Yeah, that was a concern of the project team, was how's this gonna look? And so we did elevation studies so we could see it from different angles.
John,
if
you
you
have
could put
those.
those in the, I don't know.
Yeah, so you asked, put them in the packet.
Yeah.
We can-
Yeah.
we can circulate.
Yeah,
them.
circulate them, but, going forward, if something similar arises.
Right.
I think what you're saying is put it in the packet so we can see what it looks like. Right.
The only other thing is,
Pilgrim is taking the same approach, by the way, so that means parity between the two schools.
okay,
They had adopted that approach last year, for similar reasons.
So that would have been already in the Pilgrim designs that we've
Already in
seen.
there, yeah, baked in, yeah.
Yeah, okay, but I understand
And
Mr.
then
Kravitz's point.
I think it'd be good to know any additional costs that we're getting that's imposed by RIDE. I want to know what that number is, like, so it's the 38.5 so far?
That's on the next,
That's a good segue to the next.
that's a good next change proposal.
Even going back, it might take some work, but if there's been cost changes because of RIDE's request, I just want to know what they are, so I can keep.
You guys can pretty much put that together, right?
We can, I
Yeah,
think it's it's an offline discussion about how you want to socialize that information,
I
but
just want to track it. I want to know why the costs are going up, how much, by how much, and associated with RIDE's
yeah,
requests.
I get you.
Like the Stevens Journal, That's all RIDE required, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Commissioning services.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm cautious about this kind of getting looped into the unfunded mandate category of discussions that we know are happening at larger levels in school committees, not just in Warwick, but across Rhode Island.
That's a dead issue.
Yeah.
That's not going anywhere. Just so you know, that's not gonna go anywhere, that legislation. So,
I want to keep our work separate from.
yeah, no, I agree. I think what Mr. Kravitz is saying is just informational. That's all. I mean, we're not gonna be,
It helps
worried
out,
about this.
it helps out all of our causes, let me tell you, so we
Yeah,
can show you kind of the hoops that we have to jump
Right.
through in order to.
Right.
Just- Satisfied.
Change orders that are increasing costs that are associated with RIDE. Just want to know what they are.
Any other questions for Sakosha? The hearing, I'm looking for motion to approve Sakosha for $162,000.
So
Moved by Mr. Lucy, seconded by Mr. Decort and Mr. Kravitz. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next one, Sakosha and Associates, $38,500.
This is-
Mr. Bates, sorry.
Directly, a result of those weekly workshop meetings that we've had with RIDE. Essentially, it's an enlargement of the southern stair tower to accommodate the influx and outflux of the students at that lower entrance there. So Steve, if you want to talk any more about
Yeah, we had, because of the issues with the wetlands up in the north parking lot, we decided to move all the buses down at the CTC road between the existing building and the CTC building. So with that, there's a larger influx of students coming and going from the south entrance and exit from the main building. We had adequately designed the stairwell and the door openings for the number of students to meet code, for fire code. But when RIDE looked at it, they suggested making it bigger. They wanted more space out there for more students, so we ended up pulling it out, made the vestibule bigger. We added another, secondary vestibule to it. The lobby got bigger. We have a presentation that we're gonna show shortly. I'll show you exactly what that entails. But that changed the entire structure of the south entrance and stairwell tower. It's a 3-story tower. We added another admin office down there. We had an SRO office, but they wanted to add another admin area down there, so it snowballed and it became quite a lot of work for the design team to do.
This was the biggest holdup for getting through schematic design. They would not move this forward unless these changes were made.
But to your point,
It was also an option.
Yeah, so this change estimate is only for the structural design. The design team isn't charging anything to make all these changes, though we could, but we're not gonna charge anything for it. The biggest thing is that the structural engineer had the most work because it affected all the beams and columns in the whole area down there. Stairwell, yeah, it was a lot of work.
but I think this is a perfect example of what you were talking about. There's no real code requirement for these changes. There's no aesthetic requirement for these changes. This is just.
They just thought that it needed to be bigger, so.
Yeah,
They
and they were,
wanted a different sight line between Tollgate and Career and Tech, so.
And believe me, we argued. I'm no longer attending some of those RIDE meetings now because of my level of arguing with the Department of Education, so.
Your choice of it.
You argue too hard, we don't.
I argue too hard and they,
Yeah.
but don't worry.
Push back.
Yeah, they didn't like pushback, but this
yeah,
is another
they were
example.
insistent, actually, originally what was designed in that office was the SRO, the school resource officer. They were insistent that an administrator should be in that office. So the space had to change, then to Steve's point, they wanted the path that connected the two buildings, they wanted a sight line, a better sight line, and.
We had to add windows to the CTC building office, so they could look out the window and see the doors at the high school. I don't know why, because we have cameras going in and monitors and everything that can monitor that, but they wanted a visual connection, so now we're adding windows to the CTC building too.
Yeah.
At the office,
Yeah, the
in case
concern
they
was
want to look out the window to see.
if you send a student
Hill.
from one building
Because
to the
those
other,
blinds
you
won't be
watch the
closed all
student
day.
go. we have walkie-talkies too, so it's like, I'm sending over Mr. Lucy, so can you please, he'll be at the door in about 10 seconds. But, so it is, yeah.
For Mr. Lucy, they have more than walkie-talkies.
The overall goal though is to make these two buildings not separate operating buildings, right? One cohesive, comprehensive campus, right? And that was Dr. Silva's.
Yeah, and a lot of it was
Agreed.
his
Agreed.
covering him because he had approved a comprehensive high school. And without the connection, he didn't feel that we had the comprehensive high school.
Exactly.
And now that,
There's multiple reasons for it. We may not all agree with it, however, we weren't moving forward without it.
We could look at it from the perspective of, the last budget estimate that we had about 3.8 million in design contingency. I mean, these two change orders comprise 5% roughly of that. So, part of the reason we carry that is for schemes like this, so.
yeah, now another part of this was Brad insisting we have regular classrooms in the CTC, but regular ed classrooms in the CTC building. So we had Mr. Livesey, the assistant principal, a vice principal there, to explain programmatically what we do, but they really saw, because it's comprehensive, you gotta have some of regular ed,
So we had to move health occupancies out of the CTC building, put it in the high school, and take 3 classrooms from the high school, put them in the CTC building. So we had to make that switch too.
Yeah.
Which was a lot of engineering that went with that
Several
too.
Tetris moves that we had to do to make Ride satisfied with what we were doing.
So we think we're good now.
Yeah, we believe it should be it.
All right, so
We
looking
seek your
for,
approval.
looking for a motion to approve Secosha for $38,500.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Lucy, seconded by Mr. Kravitz. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, consent payment authorizations. Steve, I'll do these, A and B.
And
All board 180.
2 separate projects.
All right, all right. So first is application number 7 for the Holland renovation, $179,890.
It's reviewed and approved by both Scotia team and myself.
Okay, any questions for Steve on that? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Well, no, motion to approve. Was it already moved and seconded?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Lucy, seconded by Mr. Kravitz. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, application number 9, $7,920.
Final payment on the Ward Neck ADA elevator
Okay,
project.
motion to approve application number 9. So moved by Mr. Holmes, seconded by Mr. Lucy. All in favor? Aye.
Great.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next, BRNA Consulting Engineers, Toledo High School project, $1,875.
Progress payment for our commissioning engineer. Most recent activities are the review of toll gates, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing drawings, so.
Questions for Mr. Bates? A motion to approve BRNA. Moved by Mr. Kravitz, seconded by Mr. Holmes.
Sure.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, EW Berman. You can take these at the same
Yeah,
time,
you can
right?
take them both together.
Yeah, applications 15 and 6 for $69,092.
This is the final payment on the Oakland Beach renovation project and the final payment on the facade repair. The approved items, DH and DI, so seek your approval on it.
Any questions for Steve?
This is it? They're 100% complete?
What was the total on the facade, roughly?
It's a lot.
I don't know.
Over 300,000.
Really? Yeah.
Beats the bricks falling on
Yeah.
his head. I mean, it was pretty ugly up there.
Test their reflexes.
Issue about it.
Yeah. All right. Any other
Also-
questions for Steve?
Also stop the water from coming in, which is really secondary.
All right, so looking for a motion to approve EW Berman items D and E for 60. Moved by Mr. Lucy, second. I'll second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, items F and G, GZA Geoenvironmental High School Project, total $25,208. Mr.
First one is for geotech test pits. When we decided to do the prefab metal building, we had to do soil testing. That's what that work is for. And the second one is progress payment for the design of the radon mitigation system for both for both Tollgate and Pilgrim.
Any questions for Mr. Bates or Lefty?
Is this coming with the previous approvals for GZA? Items 3B and C?
No, separate fees. They were given a separate, or awarded a separate proposal for the radon mitigation system. So let's say it was.
It was money well spent because sure enough, we need to put one in there and we got ahead of it by about a month and a half.
All right, any other questions? Hearing none, looking for a motion to approve GZA items F and G. Moved by Mr. Kravitz, seconded by Mr. Lucy. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, item H, left field for $110,000.
They're earning their money.
April. Any questions? Moved by Mr. Kravitz, seconded by Mr. Lucy. Any questions? All in favor? Aye.
Is that why you were looking?
All in favor?
I just,
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Chris can get paid now.
Next, item I, Sam Architecture,
all week.
$242,361.50.
Progress payment, just an update on what SOM's doing. So they issued their 100% construction documents, but they're currently reviewing bid RFIs. And they're issuing at least 2 addenda. They've already issued 1 addendum, and then they'll issue a final addendum, calling it a cleanup document, and then they'll issue a conformed set of documents. So it's RFI responses to bidding questions and cleanup addenda. They've earned their money, and we recommend paying them.
Any questions for left field? Okay, hearing none, look for a motion to approve SOM for $242,361.50. Moved by Mr. Holmes, seconded by Mr. Kravitz. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, Secosio items J through Q. Bond 2 projects design. Steve, want to do these
Do them all
as a
together.
package?
Yeah,
Because it's
just
all,
do them as a package.
all right,
It's
so
for-
totaling $25,467.
For progress on all the projects, Holloman going on, and the upcoming, door projects for this summer.
Any questions for Steve or Mr. Guglielmo? Okay, hearing none, looking for motion to approve Secosio. Moved by Mr. Kravitz, seconded by Mr. Lucy. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Sir?
Yes,
Mr. Lucy, I have an answer for you about the cost for the facade project. That was $339,000.
these cell phones, huh? What they do. All right, next, item R, Secosio and Associates, high school project, $590,700. Mr. Bates.
So Steve and his team, you're approaching 90% CDs, right? So this is a progress payment for work done. They continue to work and earn their money. We're recommending approval. It's what you at about 65% of your total contract, I think, or at least prior to the change orders. So just for reference. But
Any questions for left field? All right, hearing none, looking for a motion to approve Secosio for $590,000. Moved by Mr. Holmes, second by Mr. Kravitz and Mr. Lucy. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, Stephen Turner, items S through X, $10,093.75.
This is the ongoing commissioning services by Stephen Turner, Inc. for all of our HVAC projects.
Any questions for Steve? Hearing none, motion to approve Stephen Turner, moved by Mr. Kravitz, second by Mr. Lucy. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Last item, Y, Signet, $4,818.20.
Through the bid that we put out for this work, this is phase 1 for the Holloman renovation, interconnection between the Verkada and all the doors, and put back of some of the cameras, so, camera cabling. So we seek your approval for this. It's probably 2 more days of work, maybe 3 to wrap up Holloman and sign that. They've been called in to come in.
Any other questions for Mr. Gothberg? Hearing none, looking for a motion to approve Signet for $4,818. Moved by Mr. Kravitz, second. I'll second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, on to new business, discussion, capital and construction project status update from Mr. Gothberg.
As previously discussed, Oakland Beach, we are on our final payment. Any warranty issues will be taken care of. We had a little problem with the front door yesterday, which will be repaired today, but other than that, they are complete. Facade is complete, they are cleaned up, they have hydro seed in the front, hydro seed in the back. We're in good shape there. Holloman will be done by the end of this month. Very, very good shape. They're doing final cleaning, moving through the building. Place looks really good. Geraldo took some pictures the other day. The place looks good. And we are, Greenwood is wrapped up. And we are moving towards the door projects. They'll be going out tomorrow to do some final measurements for the doors. And I brought in Sinet to do a pre-inspection of the work they have to do. So we are ready to go for our summer projects.
On the, Mr. Oliver, the pictures you took at Holloman, can you share them either with us or just share them with Jenny and she'll share them?
I already shared them with Jenny.
You got the-
All right, can you just send a separate email to the committee? Cool. That's all you had, Steve, on that? On the project?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, next, item 2, discussion action, approval to solicit quotes for Sherman retention pond fencing.
This has not been included in any work. The project is already closed out. The principal wants a fence around the retention pond on the back left of Sherman. I mean,
Makes sense.
she thinks it's a safety issue. Kids do cut through there. I can see her point, so I'd like to at least go out to bid and get some quotes and bring it to the committee and see how we can pay for it.
Is there any contingency left?
Not at Sherman, no. We'd have to take it out of the remaining values, but I'm not doing anything without obviously going out to bid and coming back to the committee. It's not part of what we talked about. The civil engineer had not felt it was a problem, however, it won't go. At least I want to get a price and see what it costs.
How many feet of fence are you talking about?
My guess is it's gonna be about 25K, because you're gonna need a gate.
25,000 lineal feet?
No, it's gonna be about 25,000. I don't know how. It's around, I don't have an idea. About 25, I think it's gonna be about 25.
So you have to fence the entire retention pond. Is the entire retention pond accessible from all sides?
It's a matter of opinion. I guess if you're a third grader, you're a lunatic, I guess it is accessible.
Yeah, good point. Okay.
So I am trying to put out a fire.
Would that be reimbursable from Ryan?
I will have to have a discussion, but I'm not doing anything until I do that.
Well, because that will fall in health and safety, right? Conceivably?
Well, it just wasn't planned for, so I need to, I can put it through as a separate project and say, we believe we need to do it, and see what happens.
All right, so we're looking for a motion to approve Mr. Gothberg to solicit quotes for the fencing. Moved by Mr. Kravitz, seconded by Mr. Lucy. Any further discussion?
Real quick, where is it in the back?
Back left, where's the front?
Well,
All right, so on your left, all the way down on the left-hand side, your left-hand side.
And it's covered by the trees, by the tree line.
That's an old, just
So,
a tree line.
so on this
Yeah.
side,
Yeah, that's right. Because when you're looking at the school from the front, you can see it. Because you put a guardrail over it too, right? Yeah. Okay.
but I guess the kids are cutting through from the street that's behind it. There's a wooded area. They're coming through there. And she feels that somebody's gonna go swimming.
Okay. All right, we moved it a second. Did we vote on it? Call a vote on that one? Did we vote on this? We called it, we moved and seconded. Jenny, did we even vote on it, did we? All right, it's moved and seconded though. All right, so all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next, discussion, high school project update per left field.
So I think the most important topic to cover would be the Pilgrim soils issue. We talked to you last month about what we found on site. I'll just kind of go over a few of the details about the process that we're now engaged in with RIDEM. We're right now in the 30-day public notice period that ends on the 23rd of May. We have a public meeting taking place at Pilgrim High School tomorrow night at 6 p.m. That's another RIDE requirement. The goal of that is to get as much feedback and history and input that we can from the public to better inform us of what the sources of the contamination might be. So there's basically three reports that are required to be submitted and reviewed and approved by RIDEM. The one being the site investigation work plan, then there's the site investigation report, which includes the findings of the testing that we have to do when we get back out there. There's the remedial action report, and once that gets approved, then we can commence activities on site. So obviously there is a time delay there, the exact details of which we don't exactly know. There's a lot of variables. A lot of it has to do with how quickly we can get the reporting turned around from RIDEM. So we're going to be rolling with, we and our environmental engineer are going to be have the reports at the ready. So as soon as the one approval is done, we'll have the next report ready and submitted immediately after. So there'll be no lag time in between reporting, at least from our end. So we're going to try to expedite this process as quickly as we possibly can. I'm sure, Chris, you want to add anything to that?
No, again, the contamination that was found on site is very typical. We think we understand the causes of it, but this is just part of the process that we go reach out to the surrounding neighbors to see if they can find anything. We believe it's all related to some fill that was brought in as part of the reconstruction of the fields there about 12 years ago. And then, of course, there's some of this we believe is associated with just January custodial cleanup of auto shops and things like that. And there is one area where I believe it's just runoff. Basically, it's a dead end street that backs up right onto the field, and there's a pretty steep slope. So as we've discussed in previous meetings, everything is pretty typical of what we find on school sites right now. It's mostly these
Aromatic hydrocarbons.
Thank you so much. It's essentially it's a product. It's a byproduct of combusting.
I'm sorry.
Combusting organic petroleum products. So, like I said, if the grill marks on your steak are these aromatic hydrocarbons. If you have a grill in your yard, you've got them in your yard. If you have a driveway that backs up to a street, you've got them next to your driveway. They're pretty contained. And then the arsenic, as we know, is common in Rhode Island soil.
Is DEM responsive? In other words, if they know we're under the timeline crunch, right? So, if these reports go into DM and they get in a black hole and then they get to them when they get to them, it'd be nice if they're responsive and kind of.
So we're not at a point now where we'd be requesting additional help above and beyond the project team and our resources. If there is a time that we do need to ask for potential help from the city, from your representatives, we will make sure that we ask that.
Okay. All right. What else you have, Mr. Bates? You moving to the next,
Well,
no, not yet.
No, not yet, but I'm just getting it queued
Okay.
up. I mean, that's really the most important item that I wanted to talk about. So.
And then Tollgate is, you're gonna just touch on that.
Yeah.
Right. All right, so any questions for left field on the high school project updates? All right, so we're gonna move on to item 4, which is an action item. So discussion, action, approval of Tollgate design development RIDE submission pending schematic design approval per left field.
Before we get into this, I just want to caveat this. We are much further along with our designs than design development. This is because of this RIDE back and forth process that we don't want to make people, I'll put it this way. We have to follow a process there that may not be linear with our actual process of design. So Sakosho and his team, as they mentioned earlier, are really well into construction documentation. But because of the way the RIDE process works and the way that we've had to have these additional meetings with their office, we're just now requesting to submit design development documents. That also being said, is that, I don't know if John, you were gonna touch on this, but we also have already received permission from RIDE at our meeting yesterday to award early release packages as well. So that's another item that is not, it's not linear as well, but we've already received approval for those as well, so.
Yeah, with the exception of, unfortunately, concrete and steel.
Yeah.
Right, because anything that has to do with the finalization of the building design, the building layout, we have to wait on. Because we're still technically speaking in schematic design. Well, from RISE's perspective, we're in
Yeah.
schematic design. Maybe technically speaking, we're actually at 90%.
Construction documentation, yeah.
Right, so, we're still working on getting approval, and I don't think it's gonna come until next month, hopefully, to move forward with foundations and steel. But site work, we've got close to 3 months of site work to do. We've got tree cutting, blasting, grubbing, soil stripping that can keep us busy on site for a few months. We have the drum rock demolition package, which has been approved, so we're gonna award that. So there's a lot of work to be done. It's gonna keep us out there until close to August, right? But meanwhile, we're gonna have to keep finalizing the design, the building design, and eventually get those packages.
And then Dan, can you just discuss bidding strategy? So forgive me, I'm a little bit off on this one, but are we continuing to prepare steel and concrete bid packages with the assumption that we may have to make addendums to those bid packages?
They've already been bid. There is an addendum out there that incorporates the structural modifications that were discussed earlier. Those bids are actually due, I believe, at the end of the week. We'll run the final scope reviews early next week, and we'll probably have letters of recommendation ready for distribution middle of next week.
So that's kind of shows these parallel but separate timelines that we're on, the real timeline and then RIDE's timeline.
So, but those addendums, those are known entities, right, based on the design?
Yes,
Yeah.
based on where the RIDE changes that we
Right.
just made, yeah.
Yeah, so the challenge is gonna be, when you look at RIDE saying you are approved to go forward with the site work and the demolition, but not yet with the structure and foundation. We are going to be ready to be making awards for the structural foundation the next week. How long it's gonna take RIDE to get to that place where they say, okay, we're good with that is an unknown.
And we had a meeting with them about the specific items yesterday, and we were able to receive early concessions about the 3 months of site work. We're gonna continue with as many meetings as we have to force this issue and not let whims kind of decide our project schedule. You can see why I've been removed from the meetings.
Yeah, but I would think that if design is pretty much finished, I think what you're alluding to is.
Approval.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I know, but in other words, once the design's approved, I don't know if there's gonna be no, hold on, let's stop for a second. I don't like that. We wanna do that.
It's unlikely. I think
Yeah.
the work that we're gonna show you in a couple of minutes is put Brian's anxieties at ease, I think. And so the process from here on out should be more straightforward, more linear.
We're fairly confident and optimistic that the meetings that we've had over the last 5 or 6 weeks have put RIDE at ease,
Yeah.
and we will move forward rather quickly from this point
I
on.
believe we also received an email to that effect from Dr. De Silva commending the work that's gone
Yeah.
into it recently, so.
I got that impression. Okay.
Back to the action item, right, is what we're asking is, and so the initial schematic design submission happened, Steve, when? October?
October.
October,
October was the official
2024.
submission, yeah. It's been 6 months.
Right, so what we've submitted to them is the amended schematic design package. It's currently in their court for a final approval. What we're asking of the committee today is pending their final confirmation that says, yes, you are closed out schematic design. Can we then, the team, submit to RIDE immediately after the design development package is what we're asking. So, which has been under development for several months, as we said.
Yeah.
So that is the ask of the committee today.
Yeah, we have that package ready to go once he approves schematic design.
Right,
Yeah,
so you're
design
asking us to
development
approve
ready.
it now, so once they give you the green light, you don't have to come
Right,
back.
so there's
once
no
again
lag
to
time.
approve.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's what we're gonna show here.
Right, yeah, okay, all right, so. Make it as big as you possibly can, Mr. Bates. Presentation mode?
Did you want me to stand up and walk people through it?
Yeah,
I don't have a pointer, but I'll try to It's a pen. Yeah, so we started off with the, Ride asked us to revisit the bubble diagram that was submitted at stage 2. Because there were so many changes with the building, originally, if you remember with stage 2, Pilgrim and Tollgate had the same building. It was a model school. They both had 3 wings of academics. But because this school has taken so many turns and evolved so many times because of the ledge and the site issues, that the bubble diagram that we submitted back with the stage 2 to Ride didn't really match our design. So we had to go back. They asked us to go back, come up with a new bubble diagram, which we did here, to reflect the new arrangement of spaces and also to include the CTC building with the connection between the two, because both buildings make up comprehensive high school. Okay, so that's why this bubble diagram was resubmitted to Ride. Another item that Ride asked us to look at was the circulation on the site. So we've overlaid here and here, we've overlaid new designs of the parking lots. You can see down in this location here, that's the wetlands. We had a roadway, I don't know if everyone remembers, but we had a roadway. This roadway came down and looped right around that wetlands to the parking lot. But when we found out that DEM was gonna take about a year to review that for us, we said, well, we can't wait a year for anything on this building, on this site, because we have to get going on it. So we ended up redesigning the north parking lot. And that's when we decided that because we lost about an acre's worth of parking and paving, we had to move the bus loop that was up around the back here down to this road here. This is where they currently come now, but we figured, well, we can't fit all the parking we need on the north side plus the bus loop. So because of that DEM issue, we moved all the buses here. We made that parking lot smaller. And the red line on that diagram shows parent drop off and pick up. And the blue line shows just regular circulation for the teachers. So that's basically a teacher parking lot where we're gonna have parents drop off and pick up students in that same area. So we had to show that to Ride to have them give us their blessing on it. Same thing down here, where this is the parking lot that's gonna be retained. We're taking all this parking out to put obviously the baseball and softball field in, but these parking spaces are retained. And again, Ride asked us to show parent pick up and drop off in here too. So that's the red line. We took out some parking spaces back here to allow for the parents to pull up to the curb, drop off or pick up a student and then travel back out. So that was another request that Ride asked us to look at. And then also on this diagram, you can see that they asked us here to show them the design of the courtyard. So we've embellished it, we've shown it, and we have a larger drawing of that. And then also the connection, they wanted to show this connection, form a connection between the two buildings. So this is the lower level of the main high school, and this is the walkway, the pitched walkway down that drops the students directly across from the entrance to the CTC building. So those were the major concerns they had with the site.
That's a better view of the.
Yeah, this is the close-up view. You can see that's the lower level of the high school. We've got the stairwell here. We had to add a third door. We had to add a third door out here. We added a vestibule. We added an admin office here. And now this walkway, we're using it for a seat wall here. This walkway is actually a pitched 4.5%, I think. It's not a handicap slope, it's just a pitched sidewalk. So it drops the students right down here. There's some benches around here. There's gonna be a canopy along this area, which is, you can see the blue line here. Ryan suggested we added a canopy down here for the students at the buses. So this is gonna be the main pickup and drop off for the buses for the students for the high school. And it also connects again directly across the street from the CTC building here. And these admin office areas, these two offices, we're adding windows so they could see up the hill quite a ways. But we do have a rendering that actually confirms.
I have a concern about the ramp not being handicapped.
It doesn't need to be.
How do I get from point A to point B if I am handicapped?
It's a pitch sidewalk, so it's in your corners.
Less pitch and.
It's a less than 1:12.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know someone will question that.
No, we had to make it, that's why we came so far across, so we could make it just a pitch sidewalk. It didn't have to be a 1:12.
Okay.
So these are now more academic classrooms, right?
Yes, as a matter of fact, this is, the new design for the building. This area in pink is all the new CAD lab that came over from Pilgrim. We added it back to this area, made it larger, because now they have a wood shop within their CAD lab. So they have a wood shop here, CAD lab here. We took the health occupancies that was here and put it here. But then Wright asked us to flip it to the high school and bring classrooms over. So we took that, put it in the high school, and we added 3 classrooms here. And they asked us to put a physics or science room in this building too. So we had to add another physics room, a physics science room to this building. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces that were added to the CTC building over the last couple of months. Okay. This is the view. This is that enlargement of the lower level. So you can see here, we added an admin office here. Let me go here. We added an admin office out front here. This used to be the SRO office. But Right suggested we have admin here and then put the SRO office back here. So we made the vestibule larger. We added another set of doors, which we didn't need by code, but they just wanted us to add it. Same thing here. We added another set of doors and then we added this vestibule here. So that was all changes for that. And then if you look over here, this is a shot looking at the side entrance of the CTC. And then you can see the school in the background. But if you go inside these offices here, the admin office there is up here. You can see it way in the background. But these windows you see are looking from these windows in the CTC building up toward the high school. So that's the view that Dr. Silva wanted us to obtain, the view from the office in CTC to the high school up the hill. So that's why we're adding these windows to the CTC building.
You can go, I think, to the renderings.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, this is renderings of the auditorium. Dr. De Silva asked us to look at a few different things in the auditorium. We ended up, let me jump back over here. We used to have an ADA lift in this location to get up to the stage. But we changed it, the recommendation from Dr. De Silva to try to get a ramp in here. So we took the lift out. We lost a few seats, but we ended up putting a ramp in here. We lost a data closet, but we flipped it over to this side. So this is a ramp to get up to the stage now. We have a control booth back here. We have 2 teaching areas in the back that have tablet arms in case they wanted to do a lecture back there. They can bring a classroom of students to each side there. And we added an AV storage room here for any equipment, because Dr. De Silva was worried about any equipment that's left here wouldn't be secured, so we added an AV storage room here. So that we've been working on those changes in the auditorium for the last couple of months also. This is just all the lights and things like that for the auditorium. This is the rendering of the front of the building. These are the metal panels, and obviously the brick. And then the red is metal panels also. That's the shot of the courtyard. As I mentioned, they wanted us to show more detail of the courtyard. We have this area back here is an extension of the dining commons. There'll be tables out here for outdoor seating for dining. This area is an area to do 3D art. It's directly off the art room that's right here. There's a greenhouse going in that's directly off the, one of the science rooms that uses the greenhouse. And out here is just an outdoor learning space. So you can see it here. This is the learning space here. Obviously, the greenhouse is here, and then back there is the dining area. So that's just a kind of perspective looking into the courtyard. This is the rear south stair with the new design. Obviously, it's not finished, the rendering is finished, but you can see we added this vestibule with the 3 doors. We added the admin office with the 2 windows. We added the canopy out over that. This all got pushed out about 12 feet. It used to be all flush back to the building, but now we added all of this here, added out to the building and made this stair tower bumped out a little bit too. And these are just some your interior renderings. This is from the lobby space. This is the library, looking to the library. This is the admin office. This is the main vestibule coming into the building here.
Right, Steve, on that picture, John, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the upper portion of that room in the corner, which is all glass, originally, the upper portion of that wasn't glass, right? Wasn't that the one that Dr. De Silva liked the aesthetic better?
This here?
Yeah,
This is getting changed because we are putting a little bit of a wall up here because we can't really marry the metal
okay.
frames up to that ceiling because that ceiling is obviously slotted. So we're gonna add a soffit.
Well, my point was, he looked at it and aesthetically, just, no, it doesn't invite, I think that was.
So you walk into the building and he wants you to be able to have a visual connection to that media center, right? And see the activities that are happening within there. So they've accomplished that. I think you're right that you did have to increase the amount of glass a little bit.
Yeah, we had this whole corner as glass and then we added some panels on the sides here and here. But you could see in there before.
Yeah, but now
But now it's completely open.
right, and he's very much in favor of that.
I mean, it's all, it's gonna be the safety glass, the forced entry glazing,
Yep.
which is a little more expensive, but that's what Ride asked us to do. And then this is a view looking back at the vestibule that we were just coming from. So again, this is the entrance to the media center. This is the main media center, and that green space is what you were looking at from the other end. So these people are coming in from the outside. That's inside the media center, it's a 2-story space. That's that area again that you saw with all the glass coming in on the other side. That's just a photo of that. It's a reading area. And this is a shot of the dining commons. It's open to above. There's a learning stair here. So it's going to also be used for seating for dining. So we're not in the direction. And this is just a typical classroom wing, where these rooms here are resource rooms, and they're getting hot and light. And one of the things that Ryan asked us to do in here, we used to have skylights on the 2nd floor here for both of these rooms to get natural light. But we have these 2 rooms also on the 1st floor. So Ryan wanted us to get light, natural light into those 2 spaces too. So we had to take the skylights out of these 2 rooms and put light shafts in. So light shaft is going up in here. So we have three skylights now going in, and we have a light shaft that goes all the way down to the 1st floor. From the roof through here, there'll be an opening in the floor here to get light down to the lower level. Again, that opening in the floor is gonna have to be 2-hour rated glass to get that light shaft, to get the power light to the 1st floor. It's adding cost, but that's what Ryan wanted us to do. And that happens 6 times in the building.
6.
Typical science room,
And that's it.
that's the last one.
Yep.
That's it.
Any questions for, and this would be in the folder that Jen shared with you too. It's one of the last documents, that's in the PDF. Any questions for either Sakosha or Left Field on any of that? A lot of work.
It's a lot of work in a short amount of time. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I had one question. Can the 2-hour reading be accomplished with the water curtain? In that
With the
area?
sprinklers?
Yeah.
You can, but the glass all the way around that shaft would have to be rated glazing, 2-hour rated glazing. And it's extremely expensive.
It is.
It's like $100 a square foot. And we've got over 800 square feet of glass. So that number came up to like $350,000. The floor plate glazing came out to be about 240,000. So we went with the lesser of the two. The deluge system, we looked at that. We're looking at how many, if we actually have to sprinkler the whole shaft, we're reviewing that with our code consultant now and the plumbing engineer, the fire protection engineer, because there were two options to do. One of the code sections said that if it was under 32 square feet of an opening, you didn't need to sprinkler it. But then there's another section that overrides that one because of the height of the shaft. So that we're looking at a lot of different possibilities, but it looks like we're gonna have to sprinkler the shaft, even though we do have the 2-hour rated floor system to separate the two floors. So that reading glass is so expensive, it's crazy.
Yeah, there's even residential windows. It's
Yeah.
astronomical. Any other questions for anyone like to seek an appeal?
You'd have to go to the fire board, and it's very difficult to get a variance from the fire board. So we're not gonna even bother. We're just gonna put the sprinkler head.
Unless you know somebody.
I've never had luck. I've never had luck, especially if it's a safety
Yeah, it's
thing.
cool.
They're not gonna, they usually don't bend
I
on
just-
things like that.
There's a million ways to skin a cat, and, that's why somebody invented sheetrock.
Steve, in that shaft, the sprinkler heads are gonna be in that shaft, you say?
Yes.
Any problems with freeze ups or anything like that?
No, it's a heated space.
I know we had one school, we had a problem, but having a problem with a sprinkler head where it was in up near the top of it.
Yeah.
Period froze twice.
If it's an area where it doesn't get a lot of heat, we'll propose a dry system
Okay.
with a lock-off valve on it. So, we're actually doing that for the metal building for the storage areas.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Any other questions? Hearing none, looking for a motion to approve Tollgate Design Development Ride Submission pending schematic design approval. Moved by Mr. Kravitz, seconded by Mr. Holmes. Any further questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Next item is a discussion action item, approval of Demio General Conditions Initial Release for Tollgate per left field.
Similar to last month, could I turn it to Mr. O'Connell for your rationale on it?
Yeah, so what we've done was we've taken the, dollar values from the bid package, the early bid packages, apportioned them out to the general conditions, the general requirements to look for approval so we could, mobilize to the site and start construction for, I believe it's just right around 30% of the overall cost of the project.
We did this with Pilgrim too, didn't we?
Yes.
We did the same thing.
A lesser percentage though, I think, because there's significantly more site costs associated with Tollgate, right? So we're, we're amenable to an increased value on Tollgate for that reason.
Questions for Demio?
Did we verified the general condition billable rates yet? In other words, all the people that you have listed. Number one, you could do a DEI person on there, that's gonna go. In case you haven't heard, we don't do DEI anymore, but you've got your labor costs, your overhead costs, and your profit. So could we,
It's still under review. Before the GMP is executed, it's still
Okay.
something that Left Field is looking at. It's been requested and it's forthcoming, I assume.
Yeah, we'll provide you with whatever you guys are looking for, but I will say that within our rates, we do not have overhead or profit built into our actual billable rates. It's just the burden rate of the individual, based on the hour. And then, our overhead profit comes out of the fee line item that we have within,
Right, you're allowed to add your modification of your overhead as a proportion. Dimeo is gonna do X amount in a calendar year. A portion of that's gonna be Tollgate Pilgrim. So whatever your overhead is, that percentage can be added to the labor burden of every individual. And then you can add your profit, which is small, it's only about 1.85% on
Yes.
this job, so. That has to, everything has to jive like that, so you should have overhead in these billable rates. That's
The driver, I should defer to Steve Aber, our CFO. I don't know how he does those rates. I just know that
Yeah.
it's a typical burden rate for an employee, right?
Yeah.
So,
Right.
but yeah, no, we'll happily provide whatever.
All right.
I mean, well, whatever, as part of their proposal, they provided the rates, right? What I was referring to is that, again, before we finalize everything, there's gonna be a second review, right? That's what I was saying.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for anyone? Left field? Okay. All right, so I'm looking for a motion to approve, item 5, approval of Dimeo general conditions initial release. So moved by Mr. Lucy, seconded by Mr. Kravitz. Any further questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next, discussion action, approval of Dimeo drum rock demolition recommendation per left field.
On the big screen here, I've got, the drum rock bid results. The recommended award was for Select Demolition Services. Next lowest bidder is American Environmental, A Asbestos, and Sycon. We had a budget for this work, $471,376. This one was actually over budget by $97,000. We're recommending award for the lowest bidder, that being Select Demolition Services.
I think the reason this one was over is because there was more asbestos than originally considered once we did the testing. Much more asbestos in the building than was anticipated. So I think that's where the reason we got hit on this.
Does this involve the 9x9 asbestos floor
12 by 12 asbestos tiles.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
they're trying to
Throughout the
trick it.
entire building, they overlaid it.
They overlaid it.
Even 90s.
Which would be an issue in Massachusetts, but in Rhode Island it is.
Yeah.
So why don't we fight now?
No, really?
You're not wrong.
You're not wrong, yeah.
wouldn't get any argument from this.
Good time, just point me in the right direction.
Department of Health. There you go.
Any other questions for, left field or Dimeo on that? All right, so far, knock on wood, it's the only one that's coming over so far. I'm looking for motion to approve, drum rock demolition. Moved by Mr. Holmes, seconded by Mr. Kravitz. Okay. Any further questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye, opposed, motion carries. Next, discussion action, approval of Dimeo Tollgate elevator recommendation.
This is the same vendor, Schindler, that was awarded in Pilgrim, correct? Schindler?
Yeah.
Yes.
288.8, we had a budget of just over $500,000. There's a bid savings there of 267. So we're recommending award of Schindler.
No, you have two of the same elevators.
So that gives us actually four Schindler elevators, well, 4 buildings with Schindler elevators.
That was pretty much almost the savings that we had at Pilgrim too. It was 2 change, if I remember correctly.
Yep, roughly. Yeah.
So,
And then,
any questions for left field on the elevator? Hearing none, looking for a motion to approve the Tollgate elevator recommendation. Moved by Mr. Kravitz, second
Second.
by Mr. Lucy and Mr. Holmes. All in favor? Aye, opposed, motion carries.
Chairman,
Yes,
can I go back just one?
Yeah.
Demolition services, that 553 includes everything else that's required? Sewer cut off, water cut off, road, all included in that? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
no, we were just gonna pipe the rodents right to your house.
that's a long way. That's a long
But let's get those little hamster things, the clear ones.
We couldn't put any water of those commercial properties down below too.
Yes.
Above. All right, and the last, action item, approval of Dimeo Tollgate site recommendations per left field.
Okay, again, same vendor as Pilgrim, right? Manafort Brothers.
Yeah.
It's a little bidder, excuse my spelling. But we had a budget of 21.1. That's a base bid savings if we take the recommended bidder of 2.3 million. So we're recommending Manafort Brothers as the low bidder.
They're a good outfit. I don't think anybody can argue that Manafort's not a good outfit.
Who are the next bidders?
So we have Vinagro and Ferrera.
I think Vinagro's got enough work right now,
I think so.
just about. Now that they took
Motion
over
approved,
Cardi.
yeah.
Okay, there's a motion to approve by Mr. Kravitz, seconded by Mr. Holmes and Mr. Lucy. Any questions for left field?
John, what are we now total for Pilgrim and
So left,
Tollgate?
right, let me
sorry.
take the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Now my question is, okay, to date, between Pilgrim and the Tollgate, the bids that we've gotten in so far, okay, where are we? How much under budget have we come in so far?
We were 22.9 last time we reported out. We're now, based on the bid savings, at 19.7. That's the lower right-hand column. That's the variance to budget.
The overall.
Overall, this is Pilgrim and Tollgate.
Yeah.
Right, it's about a $3.3 million swing for the good.
So originally our ask to the city, when we presented the city council, was about 23 million. Now we're saying it's 19 million. So we're continuing to trend in the.
And there's
in the
still
right
15 in contingency.
And there's still 15
Yeah.
million.
Plus the other two contingencies.
Yeah, we've got 2.1 committed, still have 15 remaining.
And then we've got, there's still,
What's the 2.1?
That was for the Pilgrim soil remediation allowances that we're preparing for. We don't know exactly what that's gonna be, but that's how that's.
and we presented as a worst case scenario.
Hoping it's less, but we're holding that 2.2 for that specifically.
And then we also still have a design and pricing contingency that remains untouched in the numbers as well, and a construction contingency. So there's
Did we
additional,
touch one of those a little bit
a
today?
little bit, 100,
We touched a
160,000.
little bit of those today.
Yeah, there was, this was Tollgate, right? I think it was 3.8 that we still had at the last estimate go around.
Okay.
In design contingency.
And we just hit 160 of it because of the changes for the change order.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Public comment? None?
Wait a minute.
Yeah. Mr.
Seeing we, talking about money. And my question ties into Pawtucket. I've had people ask me, how come Pawtucket had an official groundbreaking? Okay, I've given some of the answers, but I'd like to get an answer here.
Yeah,
Secondly, and more importantly, that I'm getting a lot of questions on is, when are we gonna have an official shovel in the ground?
so
We're already past what's been advertised, and I understand it, but I feel I have to raise the issue that we have the discussion. We're sitting here in May, almost looking at June because we were just about to adjourn. Is there, I'm sure there has been, what is the discussion about shoveling the ground?
So I'll take your question
Groundbreaking.
twice. The first question is a groundbreaking. It's, do you want to have a political groundbreaking or do you want to have a true groundbreaking? And Pawtucket had a political groundbreaking. They do not even have a schematic, they don't have any packages awarded outside of the demolition of, so they don't even have, I believe they still need to cut 60,000 square foot off the building. I'm working with their contractor in another place. That groundbreaking was purely politics. And we're focused on getting all of our bid packages as much as we can, getting our interim GMPs, doing the real work first, and then we'll have a groundbreaking. That being said, there is a meeting to discuss that groundbreaking tomorrow. So we can plan on exactly when that groundbreaking will be.
We're gonna have one of each school we've talked about.
Yeah, and that's gonna
my
come,
other question.
that's gonna come from school committee, is gonna tell us how and when they would like to do it. We don't necessarily, on our part, don't see the urgency. We're more focused on getting this project as low as possible so that the ask of the city is 3 million instead of 23 million, as opposed to, the politics of the groundbreaking ceremony. As much as I know that is important, right? It's just a project for the community. They want to see,
They wanna
that's what
see something.
they want to see something happen, but I'd be remiss if I didn't say that it's not 100% our focus right now. With that being said, we are having that meeting tomorrow, so we can start those conversations and we can plan out a date and invite all the people that need to be invited and advertise it in the newspaper for people to be aware of it, and things like that.
Yeah, I think, I understand exactly, what Mr. Holmes is saying. I think that after the meeting, you have to figure out, at some point, it's gonna be a Fisher Cup abatement, right?
It's gotta be.
You know, so even if we're this close to the point where ideally we'd like to be before we get it, maybe we have to do it, right? So it's still a little bit of a work in progress, but I think people are still expecting, because the longer you go without a groundbreaking, most people are gonna interpret that as this is never gonna be done on time,
Exactly.
right? So, and that's a natural thing, and I get it. I've gotten emails from people too, and I said we had some delays but we're still, the timetable is still a timetable to move into the schools.
Yeah, so actual shovels in the ground, depending on, Pilgrim is dependent on the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management getting us a quick review. And our additional soil testing coming back clean. Toll gate hasn't changed. When's the planned site work, Mark?
I think we're talking end of May, right?
End of May.
Yeah. And then,
Yeah.
End of May, shovel.
oh, really?
The drum rock demo
Yeah, drum up demo.
and the site work will follow.
Yeah,
So
so that's.
We would be starting right now
Same time.
with Pilgrim. It's just this DEM won't let us put a shovel in the ground until we've gotten their blessing.
Yeah, so I think, you know, a groundbreaking, you're always gonna have a critic at the groundbreaking. There'll always
Always.
be critics, right? So we know we're gonna have them. So the question, I think, is the scope of the criticism this wide or this wide? Right? So if you go too early, it's like you don't even have contracts yet, you don't have a GMP yet, so how are you breaking ground? Right? So if you want to take as many of those potential criticisms away before you actually break ground, in a perfect world. So, but and the second thing, the question I have is, you know, how close are we to a GMP at this stage of the game?
We bought several packages already. Dan, when are we expecting to have our interim?
Not looking for an actual hard date, but roughly. Again, in a perfect world.
I'd say for Pilgrim, we're probably about a month out, and then for Tollgate, we're still a little ways away from that.
Because of the delay.
Because of the,
So I said August. Do we think August for both?
for both, of- yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of it is dependent on RIDE, right? Because we can't get to a GMP until RIDE says that we're allowed to bid.
We can have a GMP, but we can't have a GMP.
Yeah, right.
But I
So
think
we're
for
in a
us,
little bit of
That's a significant step for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To have that, right? Right? So, okay. Any other questions or comments? There's no public comment, so next meeting would be June 4th. God almighty. If there's nothing else, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Mr. Lucy, second by Mr. Holmes, all in favor? Aye. We're adjourned at
Now that
9:12.
we're adjourned.
Hold on, I didn't stop recording.